I've recently finished reading Kamala Harris's book, 107 Days. It's a truly gripping account of the 107 days that Kamala Harris was the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. It was a genuinely honest account, and I actually learnt a lot. One thing that it convinced me of was that Kamala Harris would genuinely have been an excellent president. She has some qualities that are the polar opposite of Trump. And those qualities would have actually made her a really good commander-in-chief. Now, that's not saying anything about 2028 or running again or anything like that. I've no idea how she would compare to the other candidates, so I'm not making any endorsement or anything like that. But what I am saying is that had she won the election in 2024, she would have had an excellent presidency. She would have been a really good president right now. And I'm going to explain exactly why and what I learned from the book that gave me that impression. One of the key criterion I tend to use in determining who will be a good politician, who will be a good leader, is if they have a rich non-political life. They need to be a rounded human being that actually has qualities, interests, passions, hobbies that go outside the realm of just politics. If you're a one-dimensional character, you're only interested in politics, the ups and downs of it, policy wonkery, all this kind of stuff, and there isn't much else to your life, then you have to start to worry that they've invested too much into this. There's an insecurity that they're filling in the political arena. So, the fact that you have a rich non-political life, even while you're in the world of politics, is a big bonus for me. And Kamala Harris really demonstrates that in the book. She, as we know, is actually an avid cook. She loves to cook. She loves to think about ingredients. She de-stresses sometimes by doing that. And she loves the social aspect to it, where she's feeding people and really connecting them. She relates a moment when she was selected as the vice presidential nominee for Joe Biden. Obviously, she'd gone through a vetting process, but she didn't know whether she would be called or if she would be selected, and she had no idea of knowing what the time frame was, when she would be informed. So she was going about her life. And she was, as she's often doing, was cooking a meal for her family, who were due to come around that time. And then she got the call from Joe Biden. You're it. You're going to be my running mate. And so she called around her team and assembled her key folks. But what she did as they arrived is she put some fresh tomatoes in each of their pockets when they came. She didn't want the food to go to waste, and she wanted to make sure that they all fed their families too. That's how important food is to her. It's a fundamental of life, of course, for all of us, but someone who's a passionate foodie, someone who loves to cook, does things like that. They sort of give out stuff to people because it's so important. It's a kind of communication. So the fact that she gave out these fresh tomatoes, in the middle of the meeting just shows how important all of that is to her and how much of a rich sort of non-political life she also has. There are other aspects and things in her life, family relations and things, which were also very evident in the book. The other thing that was really obvious is that Kamala Harris clearly is a good reader of people. Again, to be a good politician, you have to be a bit of a psychologist. You have to be able to sit with someone and discern what they're really like, because you will be interacting with world leaders, you'll be interacting with other fellow politicians, and you need to size them up. You need to get a strong idea of what they're really about, where they're coming from, and what any alliance with them might lead you to. And she really demonstrated that clearly in the book. One example is when she was talking about the way in which she really enjoyed her first meeting with Tim Walz, who eventually became her running mate. And one of the things she really liked about him was that he was genuinely self-depreciating. She said that when he came through the door, it was clear that he had absolutely no thought that he was going to end up being selected. He said that he'll support her in any way at all, and he wasn't trying to, aggrandize himself to her. He wasn't trying to big himself up. He wasn't trying to make himself look impressive to her. In fact, he was doing the opposite. He was sort of very self-depreciating. He was talking about his flaws and what he can be like, and she really liked that. And one comment she made about that was that there are many politicians who try hard pretending to be self-depreciating. But Tim Walz was the real thing. He really was self-depreciating. Now that insight is really revelatory. It shows us that she was able to actually tell that Tim Walz's self-depreciation was authentic, but also she can often see through other politicians whose self-depreciation is inauthentic. And, it's the kind of thing that's a bit scripted, that maybe they thought about beforehand, that maybe they discussed with staffers, something that they sort of revealed in order to, strategically try and get closer to somebody. There's some pretty shocking examples of that actually with John Edwards when I read the biography of John Kerry and the way in which he'd revealed certain stories to him, but sometimes, several times, making it clear that this was actually scripted. So, very interesting. Kamala Harris is able to pick up not only Tim Walz's authenticity, but she can see through others' lack of it. So that was really good to see. She clearly has a good read on people. Related to that, she also had a really good handle on Trump. She only had a couple of conversations with him, but she was able to see through him in those conversations. She talked about the way in which, when they spoke on the phone, he was actually really praising of her. He was effusive. He was saying how, I need to go easier on you, you're a really nice person, and I like what you've done, I'm very impressed. And he was filling her with praise. And she was somewhat taken aback by this. Now, look at the difference between how she responded to this and how Bill Maher responded to this. As we know, Bill Maher was invited to the White House. He also got this sort of praise treatment from Trump. He was stroked by Trump, and he was made to feel, like Trump is actually a nice guy. And he came out of it totally enamored with Trump, saying how, he's not the guy I thought he was, he's a very different guy. He was very criticized for falling for all of that. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, fell for none of it, because she said that she had the feeling that this guy actually doesn't hate me so much and maybe he likes me a bit. And then she said the penny dropped. Of course, he's a con man. This is what he does. He makes people feel certain things on purpose in order to get what he wants. So he was trying to disarm her, so she's sort of, more less aggressive towards him in future. But to her it was clear, this is a ploy, this is a strategy, this is how Trump interacts. His only real modus operandi is getting what he wants. And so he will use whatever language, talk to people in whatever way he needs to get what he wants. It's an instinct, as I said. He's not a strategist, as Trump. He's a instinctual player, a bit like a crocodile going to eat whatever he sees in front of him. So Trump is like that, and she sussed that out about him, and she was not fooled by this facade of trying to be a nice guy. His charm had no effect on her in the end. Even though she felt it, she recognized it, she named it, and then she said she knew what it was really about. So the ability to size up Trump was also quite impressive. Another thing that really became clear from the book, especially towards the end, was the way in which Kamala Harris is a genuine American patriot. She was honestly thinking about the country and the future of the country and what will happen. She clearly, sincerely believed that she was going to win, and she was very open about that. She really thought all the way to the end that she was going to win. And she prepared two kind of speeches for the election night. One was a victory speech, and one was a sort of hold, wait and see speech, still upbeat, we're going to get there, it's going to be close, but we're going to get there. They never thought about the speech of concession because they didn't actually think they would lose. So it was a real shock, and she was very open about that. The interesting thing, though, is that when she realized that she lost, she admitted to, it's like being a knock on the head. And all she kept saying, walking around, the meetings she was having with her advisors and the sort of hotel where she was staying, was, oh my God, what's going to happen to our country? Oh my God, what's going to happen to our country? And that was her first thought. It wasn't, poor me, I could have been president. It wasn't a thought for herself. It was a thought for what is going to happen to the United States and the world. And she said that she spent the whole night saying that and waking up in the morning thinking that too. What is going to happen to our country? And she was right to worry, and we all worried, and many of us worried and cried at that moment for exactly that reason. Not just what's going to happen to the country, but what's going to happen to the world. That shows that she wasn't a politician necessarily just driven only purely by her own ambition. She really wants good for the country, and she was genuinely devastated when she lost. Because what's going to happen to the country? Finally, she's emotionally open. In the book, she was very emotionally open, in a way actually that only a woman has ever been in politics. Women are different in politics, and this is why we need a female president. This is why women leaders are very important. That's why women politicians are very important. They have a different way of going about things. And one of the biggest examples of this to me was actually in Hillary Clinton's biography, the last woman who ran for president. And I read that biography, I devoured it, because it was very open and honest. And in that, she talked about her emotional roller coaster after hearing that she lost the election, and the way in which she ended up staying in bed, for much of the days that followed. She ended up, spending time crying. She couldn't be in front of other people. She didn't want other company. She talked about the emotional upheaval and the toll that it had on her in ways that no male politician would ever or has ever done. I've read many, many political biographies, and I've read biographies by people who won elections and became presidents and people who lost elections. I've been fascinated by this. It's a genre I love. But only in the biography of the women do you really hear from their emotional story, the actual journey that they carried emotionally. And this is great, because it's so important to be in touch with our emotions and not to be afraid of them or ashamed of them. And not to pretend to be some macho, sort of emotionless, feelingless stoic, because that's rubbish. It's not actually anybody. The only question is, can we be open to and about our emotions? And in the case of these women, certainly that was the case. That's what Hillary Clinton described. And it's also what Kamala Harris described in her amazing biography too. She talked about the way in which she said that her mind was running in circles as soon as she heard the election. She described herself as being in mental turmoil because she couldn't accept it. She said that she thought there must be something wrong. We must still be able to fight, even when there was no possibility of that. She remembers having those thoughts late into the night and the next morning. And she said that I realized I was in this stage of denial that comes with grief. But even though I was objectively able to see, I kept feeling it. So that sense of denial, that sense of mental turmoil is something she was really, really open about with people in this book. And that, I think, makes for a deep personality, a real person, somebody who genuinely would have made a great president, because they're in touch with their emotions. And so they can make decisions that aren't necessarily just governed by random emotions because they can't see them because they're unconscious, but they're fully conscious of the impact all these events are having on them. So that impressed me, along with all of these other factors, and gave me the impression that she's a person of depth, she's a person of sincerity, she's a person of patriotism. Without doubt, she would have made a really excellent American president. I hope you like my video. As a psychiatrist who loves politics and economics and philosophy, I love to make videos like this, and you can really help promote this video to other people and get it on your feed more by liking and commenting and subscribing to the video as well. We have a wonderful community of people here who comment and support each other through this very traumatic period of world history that we're going through right now. I also hope you consider becoming a subscriber to the channel and also subscribing to my e-newsletter. There's a link in the description, and that way we can stay in touch outside the channel, so you can keep abreast of all of the content that I'm making on an ongoing basis. The latest of which actually is my latest book called We the People. Very, very proud of this book. It's actually a novel, a fiction book written by myself and the famous award-winning author T.J. McGregor. Together we wrote a book about what the future might look like. Bit of a dystopian novel, but what might happen if autocracy goes to its next stage, AI predicting the potential end of humanity. I actually made a video about that, it really happened. And how things might pan out in this dystopian world, and actually how a band of committed, passionate, progressive people managed to change the trajectory, and not in the way that you think. It's not just by running a candidate and opposing the autocrat, but actually by deepening the democracy that we have and engaging in a real participatory form of democracy that sort of shifts the needle and gets us back to basics and helps us sort of rebuild our democracy. And that's within the context of a really compelling, gripping story, a bunch of fascinating characters, and I assure you, you will not be able to sort of stop turning the page until you get to the end of the book. That's what all the reviewers have said so far. Lots of people love it, and I hope you can get it. You can get it on Amazon, any of the global Amazon bookstores out there. Please do order your copy of We the People. Just put We the People Russell Razzaque and you'll be able to find it inside Amazon as well. Also, I hope you consider becoming a member of the channel. You can subscribe to a couple of different membership levels. All members of the channel also get some free ebooks that I produce once a month. You can buy those ebooks too from russellsbooks.com. That's russellsbooks.com, and every month I produce a new ebook on that channel, which is really about, these are the non-fiction books I produce with my team, which is really about how to learn about the world around us and the psychologies of the people who govern us, but also how to learn about ourselves, deepen our own self-awareness in a way that helps us navigate this difficult world we're in right now. So those are sort of self-help books that are produced every month, and if you're a member of the channel, you get a sort of 100% discount on those books every month. Otherwise, you can go to russellsbooks.com, as I say, and buy them anytime you like. I really hope you can become a part of this community, as I say. So this sort of supportive community, validating and helping each other, is really worth being a part of, and I hope you can join us as we all join forces to create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.